discussion panel, of course, on the same topic, which is big data and analytics. Now, I know that, because we are really running out of time, I know the session is supposed to end actually in 5 minutes' time. So I will try to shorten this, and I can see many people are already moving out, probably going for the next other intended session. So I will keep this short. Actually I wanted to come up with a teaser question and not really a teaser question. It's more like ice-breaking session amongst the speakers, which is, because I realized that none of them actually established what is big data. And I was hoping at least one of them mentioned that, but unfortunately none of them did that. And I did a quick, a search on basically I just Googled what is big data, and the dictionary basically says extremely large data set that may be analyzed, computationally to reveal patterns, trends, associations, especially relating to human behavior and interactions. So for a start, maybe, since I've already kind of like defined what is big data, maybe I can ask our panelists to share with us something that we don't know about big data.
Okay, so I lost the slight discussion there amongst the panelists as to who goes first. So something we don't know about big data. Well, it's been a very informative day. I'd say we know lots about big data now. Definition you just gave was perfectly fine. I don't know. The key things for me and trends over the next year as to where big data will be going, probably going to be around increasing the velocity, so how quickly we get information back from an insight back from the big data and sensors. But I think the whole world of embedded sensors, the data from them, what we can do with that, that's an interesting field for me.
I think big data, this term, I think sometimes is very misleading because big doesn't represent big data at all. Big data, if you look at from the definition from Gartner or from other people, we're talking about 3 V's, 4 V's, and that kind of thing. That is a better definition. At least it's not looking at big, but also velocity, but also varieties, and also vivacity, meaning that we are looking at data mining stuff. So this kind of definition, to me, I think is more important is really how you make use of it and really make a difference in what you do now. So from this perspective, I think there's a lot of things we can talk together.
Hello. Okay. So what I don't know about big data is that how people are going to use it and then how they are going to adopt it and then promote it, diffuse it to various part of their organization. That part I do not know. But the data is here. They are all going to be challenged with the way, whether it is human to human or human to machine data coming in. But definitely there will be a recognition or the realization that there is a big data. But however, my unknown factor remains.
Okay, good. Now my next question is, as you all know, all good things must come to an end. And, as you know, like, for example, anything that is a hype, it will go away as well. And, it's just like the dot-com, I'm reminded of the dot-com days, right? And then it went bust. So my question here is that, because there is such a significant amount of hype around this subject of big data and analytics, so do you think it can be dismissed? Can we dismiss this, totally, since it is such a big hype? And is big data bubble is going to burst? And is it anytime soon?
Okay, short straw again. So I think the way of answering the question is to look through the hype and look at the substance. So if you look at companies and you find analytics companies that are solving a real problem for someone and where they're generating value, I think those ones will survive. Because you're absolutely right, we are in a little bit of a hype cycle. Everybody's excited, everybody's trying new things. But as with the dot-com bubble, when the bubble burst, the companies that survived were the ones that were useful. Amazon lived through the dot-com bubble because it was a really useful company that provided a service everybody used. The same thing will be true with data analytics and with big data. Where we're using big data analytics tools to solve problems, then I think we hit sustainability.
Those who are, this is the learning from those like high frequency trading, where really those people have used big data effectively. Those who have data, they do not talk about it, because those who have data, they derive value out of it, they know the strategy, and therefore they do not talk about it. And that's their competitive strength. And then that's why they hide all their strategies and hide their data. And if they give the data to you, it's already throwaway data. So the real data is always hidden. So to my mind, whether it is a hype cycle or a not hype cycle, those people are creating the hype. That's their agenda. But I think the people who are really working with data and creating the value out of the data, they are pretty much into it.
I think I agree with my other fellow speakers on that sense. I think we haven't really yet reached the hype yet. Although a lot of vendors and consulting trying to do some more promotion, trying to do more business, actually is a fact. And sometimes people challenge us whether big data is a old wine, new bottle. 30 years old, we already have data mining, right? What's the difference between data mining and big data? Is it only a hype? People, the vendors want to do more business, so they invent another term, trying to do some new business. To me, it's not. Because the main theme today is cloud, right? Cloud actually is a very big enabler of big data. Without cloud, it's very difficult to really predict the scalability of the data volume need. So a lot of things, the machine is faster, cheaper, the storage cheaper, faster. So a lot of condition is really very different from 10 or 30 years ago. So now the technology is an enabler for us to do more big data. We have good data scientists, like Prabha, but it's not good enough. I mean, not good enough in terms of quantity. Not too many experts like the gentleman besides me. So I think my point is we haven't really reached the stage of hype. We really in the stages how to make it work. So we haven't seen so many successful cases in Asia, how we really make use of big data big time and really see a big high return of investment. It's not because we are not intelligent or smart. It's because a lot of data are not available. For example, in China, all the data basically are on the hand of BAT, right? So if you a company want to do big data analytics, if you do not have the data, even you have the data scientists, it's not going to work. The other problem is data scientists, I said before. We do not have enough data science. Data science is a discipline across business, technology, and data. It's not easy to find this kind of people. So my point is we haven't really reached the stage, the luxury to really have that kind of internet boom. So we need to work together to make big data work before we really see whether this is the end of the story or there's a lot of mileage to go. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you for the answers. I think for those people who are involved in big data and analytics can take comfort from all the answers here, because big data is going to stay no matter how it is, and even if the bubble is going to burst, whatever you have collected is going to be useful to you somehow, right? Okay, now we know that big data has been, I think through the presentations by all the three speakers, they have revealed to us that, if you have powerful insights of your business, of your country, or of the segment that you are in, that he has with all these new insights that is able to help enterprise or government identify significant cost savings because of the information that they have gathered and the action that they have worked around it. Now, but the thing is that not many people, because as I look across the room here, I believe there are some of us here who are in the SME space, some of us are in the consumer space, and some of us are startups here. And of course, I'm sure there are vendors here as well. But the thing here is that, while there are so much benefits of using big data, not many people or enterprises are willing, to share this openly in terms of how big data has benefited their business. And I think it's for obvious reasons because, some of this information are proprietary to them and they do not want, their competitor to have that advantage, of the knowledge that they have gained. So I thought this would be a good session, for our speakers here to share with us, in their own capacity, some from the government, some more from the enterprise, and of course Richard, being exposed internationally, and also being as a lawyer before. You could share with us what are some of the examples of how big data has helped either the enterprise or the government to achieve either economic or social value in more specific, examples, so that our audience can benefit, from some of this experience that you have encountered. So essentially the question is, where's the beef, and how can even for vendors here, how can they monetize the data that they have collected, either from a company standpoint or from a government standpoint?
So let me take this one first.
So I've cast the net very wide, you can answer in any form and fashion you want.
Can you hear me? Okay. So let me take this one. There's many ways that government across the world, not specific to Singapore, and I'll not talk about Singapore. So there are many places where big data has been effectively used in order to improve the citizens' experience, whether it is in transportation or improving the waste management, or improving the citizens' social behavior, then urban logistics or the urban improvements. And there are places like in Boston or in Lyons, in France, Glasgow, in London. Here in Singapore, we have done, and I'm not go to the specifics on that. And then in many other countries also where data has been used to serve in the health area or improving the citizens' health. And then a whole lot of work is being done in terms of using the data to determine the safety and security of the citizens, particularly understanding the videos and then photographs, biometrics data. So there's a plenty of work which is being done, and then people are seeing the benefits of the data.
Hello. Wait. Hello. Can you hear me? Okay, fine. I think some of the example, I would say that in terms of industry, financial services, retail, are pretty advanced in terms of making use of this kind of stuff. Right. I already in my presentation talked about how the financial services are changing the way we do underwriting, right? Rather than looking at the credit bureau to get a score before I loan you some money, I can actually combine different types of data. So I calculate another score, which is not your credit score, but it's a very reliable score. I can tell whether I should loan you some money. And another is telemetrics in insurance. Well, everyone, probably most of you know how to drive a car, have a driving license, and also you need to buy accident policy, insurance policy, put it this way. So if you drive a Porsche or Lamborghini, and if you are only 20 years old, your policy premium will be very high because they have a very rigid formula to calculate your risk. Now the people are doing it differently, try to disrupt the rules of the game. They put a device on your car, and then after a few weeks you come back, and then they use the data captured in that device. That device actually captures all your driving behavior. Based on this behavior, they will calculate a premium for you. Maybe the scenario, the young people driving a Porsche, you will not necessarily have a very high premium because you're a good driver. And also they use a pricing scheme called pay as you go, meaning that if you don't drive that day, you don't need to pay any premium. So by using these new rules of games in the travel insurance or car insurance, that actually are disrupting the rules of many, many different traditional insurance companies. So this is one of the ways actually is already live in the States and in China. Some of the insurance companies are doing it already. So if you're a good driver and you can actually take that device and show them to your insurance company, you should not charge me that much because I'm a good driver. It doesn't matter what car I drive, how old am I. So this is something I would call it disruptive technology. Big data really is.
And in fact, that is happening. We are seeing that happening here in Singapore right now.
So, very briefly, I'm going to agree with the previous panelists, but just give a couple of examples from the UK. I mean, the best examples and most public examples of big data driving improvements in the United Kingdom are actually from government, because, as you say, people are happier talking about it. They don't have competitive tensions as much. The biggest one is around the digital transformation program that the government digital service are doing. What they're doing is they're taking some of the high volume transactions in government, and then they're applying a digital lens. So they've taken, assembled a sort of best-in-breed team of technologists from the private sector, put them into a new agency. That new agency works with different ministries to transform the experience of the public. So, for example, registering your car for tax or paying your tax online, these are services that have been transformed. They use big data and analytics to track the load in the system. They use cloud computing to offset that, to manage their costs. And that's a big driver of cost saving. I think they've estimated they've saved almost £1 billion through that program from taking about 12 different business lines. The other big shift that we're seeing in the private sector, where I have fewer examples, is a shift from people selling the data through to people selling the solution. So because selling the data is a great business model for today, although it's less stable than it was 5 years ago, because the cost of replicating the data sets that people are selling is falling all of the time. You know, through all of the sort of sensor stuff that we were talking about, all of the pervasive capturing of data, actually it's much easier to replicate some of the data sets that people sell than it used to be. So what we're seeing is with people starting to shift their business model from one that's being disrupted to being the first mover and starting to sell solutions. So starting to sell the integration into the end system, or starting to say, oh, you want to use the data for that? Well, we've got a service that we can provide to you, and they start selling the service.
Okay, thank you. I realize time is running very fast, Okay, perhaps at this juncture, before I ask more questions, is there some burning questions from the audience here that you wanted to ask? Yes, go ahead.
This is for Richard. You spoke about like the Open Data Institute and that you're trying to make data more open. Is there a focus on providing free data or try to unlock data and provide it free, or is it just trying to get companies and governments to open their data, be it either free or commercial?
So our focus is on opening up the data for free and on making sure it gets used. So it doesn't just get opened up and then lie fallow, but that people actually start using it to solve problems.
Okay. I'm reminded that there's a closing session that's going on right now, and I am not allowed to continue. Unfortunately, I actually have a very interesting question, but I don't think I have the time. I'm so sorry. And is there one more last question from the audience? Okay.